We're back, folks. Busy week, jam-packed show. We're going to jump right into it and look at some of the topics, just a few of them this morning. Some things we're going to be talking about today in Louisiana, the first ever female mayor in the city of DeRidder's history is now a convicted felon after being found guilty of carnal knowledge and indecent behavior with a juvenile. The murder trial of Kori Ritchens has entered its 8th day. We have an update on everything breaking so far in that case. In Mississippi, a father and daughter are fatally shot in another Facebook marketplace killing. We're going to be talking about that. In Ohio, an Amish mother is found not guilty by reason of insanity in the drowning death of her son. So much more that we're going to be discussing today. This is Crime Wire Weekly, and I am Jim Chapman.
And I'm Kelly Jennings.
Got a lot of news stories running the gamut today on all kinds of different stuff.
I know. And hey, if you're watching right now, Jimothy walked in with a sport coat on looking all fancy. And so I felt underdressed. So he brought me his sparkly, what
now
is this?
She looks fancier than me.
Is this a blazer? What is this?
This is a sparkly blazer.
I have on a purple sparkly blazer. So guys, if I'm like putting out too much vibe here for you, I'm just trying to be in competition.
Yeah, right. She was cold.
I was. It was cold in here.
All right. Well, let's jump right into it, Kelly. And we're going to go to Park City, Utah for our first story in the high-profile trial of Kori Richens, the Utah mom and children's book author accused of fatally poisoning her husband with fentanyl-laced Moscow Mule.
Which, by the way, if you don't know what that is a refreshing cocktail made with vodka and spicy ginger beer and lime juice, and they serve it in those copper mugs. They stay really cold.
Have you had one?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Deliciousness.
I haven't had the pleasure of a Moscow Mule, much less one that's fentanyl laced.
Well, if you want to go have a drink with me, we'll have one and I won't put fentanyl in.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'm not going to have one with Kori Richens because she is certainly accused of that. Prosecutors have been intensifying their focus on her alleged financial motives as this case heads into its second week. Now, she stands accused of aggravated murder and attempted criminal homicide in the March 2022 death of Eric Ritchens, along with multiple financial crimes, including insurance fraud claims and forgery. Of course, she's pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. She's facing 25 years to life in prison if convicted. And opening statements in this trial took place February 23rd, 2026. And the entire trial is expected to last approximately 5 weeks. So they've got a lot to cover. Now, Eric Richens was a successful businessman, father of 3. He gets found dead at their home. This obviously was in March of 2022. And toxicology reports revealed lethal doses of fentanyl in his system, approximately 5 times the fatal threshold, along with ethanol and other substances. Now, what really made this case stand out was Richens authored a children's book that was very popular on Amazon. It was called Are You With Me?, which tells the story of a young boy grieving his father who had died. I don't know what you would call that, but a very strange coincidence there that all of a sudden this occurs, a horrible coincidence, actually. So during opening statements, the prosecutor told jurors the evidence would show that Richens killed her husband to inherit millions from his business and money from insurance policies so she could maintain the picture of affluence and success and start a new life with a boyfriend that they found out she had. Yeah. Defense attorney Catherine Nestor, she countered that her client was innocent and was basically being targeted by vindictive family-in-laws. So his side of the family, she's saying, were very vindictive people, and that's why she was being charged with all this. Days 1 and 2 of the trial, they interviewed the family and the first responders, stuck them on the stand. And Eric's father and sister, they described learning of his death. EMTs and deputies, they recounted arriving at the scene and finding Eric cold to the touch and flatlined. And body cam footage showed Ritchens in pajamas, explaining that she made a drink to celebrate a house flip. Evidence technicians recovered an empty ginger beer bottle consistent with Moscow Mule, but noted incomplete searches of the home. And they're really diving deep into it. I'm not going to cover all the witnesses that spoke in this thing so far in the trial, but it is being aired in its entirety on court TV, and a lot of people are into watching it. And that's one thing I like about these public trials is a lot of things you hear and you form an opinion without actually seeing the trial. This is one you can sit through and maybe your opinion will stay the same. Maybe it'll change.
So, yeah, I love watching trial on TV. I'm a nerd like that. People are like, hey, have you seen this movie? No, but have you seen this trial? Because I'm on day, 3. And so it's very interesting, too, that they say, oh, no, this is all because of vindictive family. Well, babe, family isn't who brought the charges against you.
Yeah.
Law enforcement is who did the investigation, and then the prosecutor's office took the case. So if your defense is vindictive family, that's kind of strange because they obviously found evidence that pointed at your culpability in this.
100%. And one more thing I want to mention before we get off that topic is I think it was day 4 of the trial, they introduced the evidence that they found on computer, the forensic evidence.
Yeah.
And what gets you quicker than anything else? Internet search history. And this girl was searching everything from how much fentanyl does it take to kill someone?
Right.
To, I don't know if this was one of the searches, but probably how much fentanyl do you have to put in a Moscow Mule to kill somebody? I mean, it was that clear, and she made multiple searches days before he was killed. So, internet searches will get you every time.
Right. Maybe we need to go back to the library people, start looking in books and quit internet searching it.
Yeah.
Go old school.
Right.
All right. Actually, don't kill people. That would actually be the lesson from there. All right,
just divorce.
Yeah, just get a damn divorce. Like, really?
Jesus.
Come on now. And then your poor kids don't have a dad.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right. So we're going to come right here back to Louisiana. DeRidder, Louisiana. A Beauregard Parish jury convicted former DeRidder Mayor Misty Roberts on Tuesday of 2 felonies for having sex with a 16-year-old boy during a pool party at her home while she was still in office. Roberts, who is 43, made history in 2018 as the first woman elected mayor of the city, roughly 10,000 people, and won re-election in 2022. She was found guilty of carnal knowledge of a juvenile, which in other states would be statutory rape, and indecent behavior with a juvenile, both of which are felonies. The jury deliberated less than an hour after a 7-day trial. Now, the incident occurred in July 2024 at a house party at Roberts' DeRidder home. The 16-year-old victim testified that he had been heavily drinking and became ill. Testimony and evidence presented to jurors included a lewd and lascivious photo of Roberts and the teen, and testimony from a DoorDash driver who delivered emergency contraception Plan B to her home the next day. Statements from Roberts' ex-husband were introduced that she confessed to the encounter after their children caught them. Roberts' son and nephew also testified they saw her with the underage boy at the party. The victim's mother told the court that her son was disgusted afterward. Prosecutors argued that the teen was too young to consent, and defense attorneys contended the investigation was flawed and politically motivated. Roberts abruptly resigned as mayor in late July 2024, one day before Louisiana State Police began investigating the complaint. She was arrested August 1st of 24, initially on third-degree rape and contributing to the delinquency of juveniles. A grand jury later indicted her on the 2 felony counts, which she was convicted. The case had previously ended in a mistrial in February of 26 over indictment issues before the retrial. Roberts remains free on a $100,000 surety bond pending sentencing, which is scheduled for 9 a.m. April 17th of 26 before Judge Kent Savoy. She faces up to 10 years in prison on the carnal knowledge charge and up to 7 years on the indecent behavior charge. She will be required to register as a Tier 1 sex offender. Beauregard Parish District Attorney's Office officials declined comment after the verdict at the judge's request. Defense attorney Adam Johnson argued during closing that the state failed to properly investigate potential evidence, such as surveillance video or DNA. The conviction comes after Roberts had publicly spoken in May of 2024 about personal struggles, including a divorce and natural disasters, while aspiring to seek a third term. Now, the case has drawn widespread attention in the small Southwest Louisiana community. It's right near the Texas border, and Roberts' brother, Brandon Lee Roberts, separately pleaded guilty last year to unrelated rape charges involving underage victims and received a 42-year sentence. No further comment was immediately available from the victim's family or city officials, and DeRidder has since elected its first black mayor following Roberts' resignation. Sentencing will determine how much time, if any, Roberts spends behind bars.
Yeah, pretty crazy case. I actually covered this on Exposed when it first occurred. Of course, had none of the information that I've gotten now since this went to trial and everything came out. Interesting couple of anomalies in this. Number one, Misty Roberts was the first female ever elected mayor in DeRidder, which came with a lot of celebration and, we broke through this chain, if you will, of having females in very high profile, powerful positions in DeRidder. That being said, she was very popular. Obviously, she was going for a third term, which is, that's an elected position. You've got to have the support of the majority of the people. What people didn't realize was behind the scenes, there was a lot of tomfoolery going on, just relative to some of the things she was doing in this instance. And I'm going to go into this in a different separate podcast, exactly what occurred, but she was serving on this particular night. She had a refrigerator full of alcohol that 15-year-olds were drinking. And she bought for the 15-year-olds. And I'm not just talking one beer each. They were all shit-faced drunk. And what do you think is going to happen? This is going to lead to other issues. This particular situation, her own kids actually saw her having sex with a 15-year-old.
Yeah, and then
her own kids, her daughter and her son was the same age.
Ashamed is not even the proper word here, but then she wants to go on here and say, oh, well, I've had some personal struggles. What'd she say? Divorce and natural disasters. Never in the history of ever have I ever, post-hurricane needed to go, have sex with a teenager. Well,
Yeah.
how is that even possibly a excuse here?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It's
you made poor decision after poor decision after poor decision. And
you're the mayor.
You're the freaking mayor, dude. Like, come
You're the
on.
mayor. All right, let's go to Memphis, Tennessee. And look, we just talked about this the last episode, and here we are again, another Facebook marketplace killing.
You are so anti-marketplace. It's funny.
Bruh, I mean, it's how many times does this have to happen before people realize it's not safe? If you're going to do it, you need to make sure you're as safe as possible. I did see, incidentally, and I can't remember which police department it was. It might have been a whole nother state, but they're actually having they're instituting Facebook marketplace meetups in front of the police departments. And there's an actual spot with a camera where you can do these things, and the likelihood of this, what I'm about to tell you about, happening lowers.
Yeah, that's smart.
Very smart. It's something I may talk to the powers that be here about locally and see if that can get accomplished.
Let's call
it's a great thing.
The Crime Wire Weekly Exchange Spot. And we'll sponsor the sign.
Yeah. Hey, I'm down with it. Let's get that ball rolling. But we'll get into this. A father and his teenage daughter from Memphis, Tennessee were found shot to death inside their vehicle on a remote gravel road in northern Mississippi on Sunday morning. Family members believe the pair was ambushed while traveling to purchase a PlayStation 5 console listed for sale on Facebook Marketplace. Deputies with the Panola County Sheriff's Office, they responded around 7 p.m. 7 a.m. this past Sunday to River Road on the outskirts of what's known as Sardis after a passerby reported what appeared to be a single vehicle crash. Inside that vehicle, they discovered 42-year-old Victor Gonzalez and his 19-year-old daughter Serenity, both suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. Authorities said the double homicide likely occurred late Saturday or early Sunday. The victims, both electricians who worked on homes in the Memphis area, were last seen Friday after leaving a job site. According to Victor's son and Serenity's brother, Jesse Waterman, the father and daughter planned to grab something to eat before heading to meet a seller for a video game console from Facebook. They were working that day, they were going to eat, and after that, they were going to pick up a PS5, Waterman told reporters. Waterman said investigators shared that muddy tire tracks at the scene and damage to the sides of that family white work van suggested the victims may have been trying to flee from their attacker. Normally, they don't have mud and stuff like that on the van, he added. It looks like they were trying to peel out and run away. The family believes the pair was set up through the online marketplace listing. If I was to ask a question, it would be why? Why does this make any sense? Waterman said. Everybody is in shock. Panola County Sheriff Shane Phelps had spoken with the family, but has not confirmed details about the transaction, a possible robbery, or whether the victims were targeted in advance. The investigation remains active. No arrests have been made, and neighbors describe River Road as a lightly traveled rural road with few houses in the area. Of course, that's a major problem when you're meeting strangers. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers in Panola County. And just another sad situation. And it sounds like they were meeting in a very rural area that there's not a lot of witnesses. These people that want to kill you for this stuff, granted, it's probably a rare occurrence, but it occurs.
Yeah, so you have
need to be careful.
You have to think about this. Okay, put yourself in the mind of the bad guy for a second. Let's say that you have something that you know you could sell easily, and then you say you want $400 or whatever. Well, all you have to do is the bad guy say cash only, I won't take Venmo or anything like that. Okay, no problem. So now they know that you have $400 cash on you. And then you say, hey, what are you driving? So I'll know it's your vehicle when I see it. You give them the vehicle you're driving, and now they know exactly who to target. They know that you'll be traveling down this rural road. It's an easy lick, and they get the cash and they take off. And unfortunately, you pay with your life. So smart decision making here. Hopefully, people would know this, but they could have been picked off on their way to a location that was actually a higher profile location. You don't necessarily know that they said, let's meet on this gravel road no one travels. Yeah. So whenever you go to meet up with somebody, maybe get the time, get the location. That would be a busy area, but I wouldn't tell them what you're driving until you get there. That way, these kind of things couldn't happen. Don't give more information than you need to. And if they don't show, then you know that might have saved yourself, some trauma here.
Yeah.
Be very smart. Venmo makes more sense whenever you're doing transactions like this. If someone says cash only and you know you're going to be carrying a large amount of cash, you need to think it through where you meet up.
Right.
So
I agree.
Okay. Let's go to Ohio. This is kind of different because we don't hear a lot about the Amish in terms of crime. It doesn't seem to make the news a lot. But an Amish woman who drowned her 4-year-old son in Atwood Lake last summer told authorities that she was, quote, giving him to God. She was found not guilty by reason of insanity Tuesday in a county bench trial. Ruth Miller, 40, of Holmes County, was ruled not guilty by reason of insanity on all 7 counts by Judge Michael Ernest following a brief trial that relied solely on police reports and 3 independent mental health evaluations. The judge concluded that Miller suffered from a severe mental disease at the time of the August 23, 2025 incident and did not know the wrongfulness of her actions. I think that's the only conclusion that can be reached, Ernest said in court. Miller will remain in custody pending a placement hearing scheduled for 10 a.m. on March 13th. Prosecutors are seeking commitment to a locked state psychiatric facility where the defense hopes she can eventually return to her surviving family after treatment. Under Ohio law, she must be reevaluated every 3 years. The tragedy unfolded during what authorities described as a family vacation at Atwood Lake that turned deadly amid apparent religious delusions. According to the county sheriff, Orvis Campbell, the Miller family, which is Ruth, her husband Marcus Miller, who is 45, and their 4 children, traveled from their Holmes County home, believing God was speaking to them and directing them to perform acts of faith. Around 1 a.m. on August 23rd, Ruth and Marcus jumped into the lake from a dock. Marcus later returned to the water alone. At approximately 8:30 a.m., Ruth placed her youngest child, Vincent Miller, on a golf cart drove to the dock and threw the boy into the water, drowning him. Body camera footage captured Miller telling deputies, "I threw him in the lake and I gave him to God." She added that God had told her that Vincent would be swallowed by a fish. About 2 hours later, around 10:30 a.m., Miller drove the same cart carrying her 3 teenage children, 18-year-old twin sons and a 15-year-old daughter, directly into the lake, and the teens escaped unharmed. The incident prompted a large-scale search. Vincent's body was recovered near the dock around 6 p.m. that evening. Marcus Miller's body was found in the same area the next morning. Authorities determined he accidentally drowned while attempting to swim to a sandbar. Miller, who had been hospitalized since the bodies were recovered, was indicted in September on charges including aggravated murder, murder, and felonious assault in Vincent's death, plus child endangering and 3 counts of domestic violence involving the teenagers. She pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity and waived her right to a jury trial last month, leaving the outcome to Judge Ernest. All 3 court-ordered psychiatric evaluations reached the same conclusion. Miller was experiencing an acute mental health crisis involving grandiose and delusional thinking in the weeks leading up to the incident, including shortened and erratic sleep and a request to her husband that he suffocate her. She suffered from some form of mental disease that prevented her from knowing the wrongfulness of her conduct, the judge noted, citing the unanimous expert findings. The Amish community in Holmes County, one of the largest in the United States, has remained largely silent on the case, consistent with its preference for privacy. Miller has been held in the county jail since shortly after the incident, and the verdict means Miller will not face prison time, but will instead be committed for mental health treatment, and the placement hearing next week will determine the specific facility.
Wow. You know, in that article, I didn't hear you reference her trying to cover it up.
Yeah.
Seems like she did it and then, I guess, admitted to everything. And that's one of the things when you see a lot of people and they'll plead not guilty by reason of insanity, the second you try to cover up your crime proves you knew it was wrong when you did it. And so that throws it out the window. And almost every case is like that. Someone runs from the scene or something. In this case, I didn't hear that. I don't know, man. I don't know what I think about that one. You know, the majority of everything in me wants to say she needs to be in prison the rest of her life, but I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know what to think about that.
This one is giving Andrea Yates. We all know that case where she drowned her children, and then she called the police with saying that I killed them because I wanted them to leave this world as innocents. That, you know, the devil was going to take my children. Blah 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 blah. And while we want to be punitive because you killed a child, and right. Nobody will ever be on board with that. The issue here is that she is suffering a mental health crisis, and punitiveness, the punishment will not work. I know this doesn't sound good. I know people are shaking their heads probably at this, but the reality of it is being punitive to someone who doesn't get it or didn't get it at the time is not going to what's the point of prison? The point of prison is to punish and to rehabilitate. Well, if you're having a mental health crisis that multiple mental health people, and clearly I've seen the body cam video, clearly she is not in the right mind, clearly, very clearly. She's just very blank, very direct. He's in the belly of a fish. You know, it's very odd. And I think that mental health treatment in this case is appropriate. I really do. I don't think that what she did was wrong, but the cause of the effect, I think, needs to be mitigated first. Putting crazy in prison will not solve. And when I say crazy here, I don't mean evil crazy. I mean mentally depleted of common sense and what is right and wrong.
And any sort of repercussions for what you're doing. Probably.
Yeah, because, and I'll give you some insight here. You know, I worked at Angola, everybody knows that. And so we had a unit there where we put basically the criminally insane. I mean, we put them on these tiers. And while they're dangerous criminals, and obviously she was dangerous to her own children, I don't know that she had that evil component that we're used to seeing here. I think we have a lack of... like I said, just mentally, she was in a very odd.
So what happens
space.
from here? I mean, is she going to be in a mental institution
Absolutely.
the rest of her life? Okay.
Yes.
So she's not going to be walking amongst the furry.
I don't know because they haven't said, you know, what exactly they're going to do. But the law here states that if they can stabilize her, from what I'm understanding, if they can stabilize her, then release would be considered. so long as she has check-ins, and every 3 years she has to be reevaluated. Now, I would have, I don't know if there's any other younger children, because it says she has, she had the teenagers. I would be very careful to have her in control or being the domiciliary parent of any other children, obviously. But if this was strictly a mental health crisis and she didn't kill the child for any type of gain or any type of, just to get rid of him type thing, and it was strictly a mental health issue, I hope we as a society can see that it's horrible. But punitiveness will not solve it. And do we want to solve it, or do we want to be vengeful? And I think the judge chose solving it over vengeance.
There you have it. Let's go to Wisconsin. And a Wisconsin nurse has been sentenced to prison for having a sexual relationship with a vulnerable patient under her care and then fabricating the sexual assault claim against him to cover her tracks. Melissa Knutson.
Of course it was.
Don't do it. Melissa Knutson, who is 29, from Reedstown, Wisconsin, was employed as a mental health nurse from the Monroe County Drug Court Program in 2022. Now, her role involved in administering Vivitrol, which is a medication used to treat substance abuse to patients in the program. Prosecutors revealed that Knutson repeatedly engaged in sexual intercourse with one such patient while on duty, violating the strict boundaries of her professional responsibilities. The illicit relationship came to life in March of 2023 when it was reported to the Wisconsin Department of Safety in an attempt to deflect blame. Knutson went to the Sparta Police Department and then accused the patient of sexually assaulting her between July and October of 2022. She claimed she had not reported the alleged assaults earlier due to fears for her safety and that of her family. However, investigators do what they do, and they uncovered text messages and screenshots provided by the patient, who was basically like, no, wait a minute, screw that. She was all over me.
Right.
This painted a stark different picture. These communications showed that Knutson had initiated the relationship and even promised to deny any involvement if they were discovered in the text messages. Confronted with this evidence, Knutson eventually admitted to fabricating the sexual assault accusation in order to avoid facing consequences for her actions. On February 27th of 2026, Knutson pled guilty to the charges of misconduct in public office and obstructing an officer. She was sentenced to 18 months in prison, followed by 2 years of extended supervision upon release. During the proceedings, the judge described her behavior as despicable and emphasized how she was betraying trust inherent in the medical profession, particularly vulnerable patients in recovery programs. The Monroe County District Attorney highlighted the severity of the case in a statement, saying the harm caused by Ms. Knutson was deep and significant. She did not only violate trust between patient and a nurse, but compounded that by falsely accusing the patient of sexual assault. And
dude, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, how many times did it say they had sex?
A lot.
Oh, a lot. Okay. So, let's start here.
It just said repeatedly.
Repeatedly. Yeah. So how about don't walk back in the room? Your lie doesn't even sound good. You know, give me a break. It sounds like they were hooking up and then it went south, and he probably said, well, you just messed up on that one. And so she tried to beat him to the punch and ended up
She forgot about the text
herself.
where she was saying, meet me in my office.
Right.
And then she forgot about the text where she was saying, if this ever comes out, I'm going to blame it on you.
Right.
And this girl, if you're watching this on the Patreon version, beautiful girl. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be one, but that's serious, man. When you're charging someone of sexual assault, basically raping you, and they're not, and you're doing that just to get out of losing your job, you have mental issues.
Well,
there's something wrong with you.
You're not
just
a good
admit it.
Yeah, you're not a good person if you will. Any woman,
Poor guy,
I feel
man.
so strongly about this. Any woman who would falsely accuse a man of a sexual crime, I don't even care why. Anyone who will do that, you are the worst of the worst to me.
Yeah.
You know, because we tend to give women the air of belief in a sexual misconduct situation at the beginning. You know what I'm trying to say? Like you're the poor victim here because you're a woman and you weren't, and you were in a power position. Plus, it says he was in recovery. So obviously, he's not in a good spot. How about don't jump people's bones when they're in recovery?
Yeah, Miss Nutson.
Yeah. She needs to be denutsened.
I'm leaving that in.
Don't you dare.
I'm
Don't
totally
you dare.
leaving that in.
All right, we're moving on. Pretend I didn't say it. Okay. Hey everyone, Crime Wire Weekly has moved to its own new channel.
We hope you've enjoyed this preview. To continue listening, please follow the link referenced in the description of this podcast.
Or simply search Crime Wire Weekly wherever you're listening.
And don't forget to follow the show so you can be alerted when new episodes drop.
Thanks for listening.